We are going to be talking about how you're collecting payments from your residents today and really focusing on giving the residents more options for how they're paying their rent while also making sure that your community or your portfolio's rules are in place so you're able to operate and manage your communities the way that you want to and the way that you want payment rules to work inside of your communities and navigating what seems to be constantly changing compliance as you move from state to state, looking at different community or real estate opportunities. It's always interesting to see kind of how payment laws can change depending on which states your properties are operating in. And so our platform really helps to focus on giving those residents more payment options, making sure that we're helping with the compliance burden depending on where your properties are located, and then giving you the floor to make sure that we're working with your workflow to make sure that you can operate those payments and your workflow how you would like. Today, we'll quickly go through kind of the background on our company, some of the features that we hear and talk about the most with our rent manager customers or our mutual customers with residents, how to onboard with Occupi, and some of the new features that we have in our platform. I'm also going to leave plenty of time for questions. So as Gabe mentioned, please use the chat feature anytime that you would like to ask questions, and we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end, and we'll go through all of them. A little bit on our background and our history. My name is Taylor Peak. Max and I are both in Birmingham, Alabama. I am a software engineer and I also own 3 communities myself. And so very much understand just kind of some of the difficulty that you guys are navigating as you're operating these properties, figuring out the best workflows, and also navigating which partners make sense for your business and which ones easily fit into your workflow. Is we know it's a challenge and kind of firsthand know the challenges of both operating those properties as well as navigating what seems to be a constantly changing payment landscape as well. In the last couple of years, there has been a really substantial shift in how residents are making payments, making any type of payment, including rental payments as well. And one of the largest shifts has just been the adoption of these digital wallets or cash wallets. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard requests of, can I make a payment with Cash App? Can I make a payment with Chime? Can I make a payment with Venmo? And that's because the numbers are growing substantially for these cash wallet companies and also for the support that they offer. As you can see, the number of Cash App users has gotten to the point where it's exceeded the number of rental households in the US. And so we're really fortunate to be partnered with all of the large cash wallets in the industry. And it really opens up the opportunity for any of the communities or properties who are using Occupy as a service. They can allow their residents to kind of reap the benefit from any of those cash wallet companies. And it gives them a lot of locations across the country to make those cash deposits, to make employment check deposits, and just to make the process of making cash payments easier than it ever has been before these wallets existed. And so we're really fortunate to have those partnerships, and we keep a close eye on this shift in the industry of how many residents we see that are signing up for these cash wallets and using it as their primary bank account, and in some cases using it as effectively in lieu of a bank account, that they're using these cash wallets as their bank account. Cash App specifically has a mission to serve any household that has a household income of under $150,000 a year, but their current customer base annual household income is actually lower than that. And so it will be interesting to see kind of how this shift in the market continues to play out, but it's something that we're watching closely. One of A very popular question that we get from our customers on Rent Manager and new customers who are using Rent Manager is about the challenges of how to navigate NSFs and chargebacks and how that can impact your books month to month. And so once your properties have a policy in place about when an eviction time period starts, it becomes really challenging if you're waiting a long period of time before you're getting notified that you have this NSF or this chargeback that's coming back. And so we've really dug deep into what can we do, what can we provide to our customers to help them mitigate this challenge of NSFs and chargebacks and to make their workflow as efficient as possible. Um, One of those things is for any residents who are using these cash wallet tools, there is substantially lower issues with any type of NSF or chargeback, and you don't see the typical challenges that you can see, for example, with credit cards or with ACH payments. And then another tool that we're offering to all of our customers is if a customer wants to verify that those payments are available at that time, they can actually reach into their resident or their prospective resident's Cash App account or into their bank account and confirm that those funds are available. Um, our customers have found that to be particularly helpful if they're looking for for example, a deposit amount to see if that deposit amount is there to make sure that their team can finalize the lease and actually receive those funds. It's also helpful on a monthly basis just to verify if you have a resident that has had an NSF or a chargeback before that NSF or chargeback occurs, we can look into their Cash App wallet or we can look into their bank account and say, yes, these funds are available, and we can go ahead and process that payment. However, if the funds are not available, we can stop the process, not process the payment at all, so that the resident doesn't get an NSF fee, the community doesn't get an NSF fee, and the community can go through their typical process of how they would handle non-payment depending on which time it is in the month. But this way, if the resident has funds available, regardless of which payment type or which payment method they prefer, they can submit that payment as soon as it's available. And if they're trying to submit a payment, but they do not have funds available at the time, we can really catch that early to make sure that you're not in the situation where you're waiting a long time just to be notified that the funds actually are not there. Here are a few of the payment options offered through our platform. Through Occupi, we actually enable communities to use 20 different payment methods. You can limit those payment methods if you would like, or focus on more payment methods. We really put the property manager in control of their workflow and which payment offerings they want to offer to customers. We do offer ACH, including verified ACH. Verified ACH meaning that you're actually verifying that balance before they're making their payments. We also, of course, accept credit cards. We accept any type of credit card unless a particular customer is limiting those. And what I mean by that is if you have a companion card, like a Chime card, you can also process that through Occupi. We can also process like prepaid gift cards and non-traditional cards. We of course process debit cards, any type of debit cards, regulated cards, unregulated cards, business debit cards, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, SoFi Chime, Green Dot, Walmart Money Card. We have a partnership with all of those programs just to make residents have the option if they have funds available in those accounts, they can make it work. I have a resident who is a housekeeper and she has uses different payment methods each month based on where she has those funds available. So I may get a payment from Venmo through Occupi that shows up in my account one month, and then the next month I may get a payment through Cash App through Occupi that shows up in my account. And so we handle the process of making sure that we're collecting those payments. We collect all of the cash wallet payments through a corporate account. We pass along the lowest processing fee that we get from our processor. And so you'll see the credit card fees. We charge a maximum of 2.9% for credit card fees. We do require that the residents, if they're using a cash wallet such as Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, that they use the corporate payments. And so what I mean by that is corporate payments in lieu of just friends and family payments, so that they can make that transfer, make that payment. And so that ensures that those funds are insured, that we get support from their team, and that they get access to all of the physical locations to make those cash deposits. For onboarding, with our team, we try to make the process as easy as possible. We send you an agreement, and it's a data access agreement, so we can get access to your information in Rent Manager and make sure everything is synced seamlessly. Once we have a signed agreement, you can set up an onboarding call with our team. And prior to the onboarding call, you can actually go into Rent Manager and request access to Occupi. And that will give us access to your payment workflow so we can ensure everything is set inside of your workflow as your reports are ran today. We set up a bank account with you with our sponsor bank. So we have a custodial bank account with you so you can see your funds from end to end. So even as we're waiting on, for example, those funds to process and to clear, you'll be able to not only see inside of Rent Manager, but also have access in your bank account to any funds that you set up with us. And then we also provide communication for you to share with your residents just to make the onboarding process as easy as possible. We'll share some emails, newsletters, and text messages that we've seen work really well for Rent Manager customers. We actually had a Rent Manager customer earlier this week who called us and said, can we have onboarding set up tomorrow? And we had onboarding set up with them in 24 hours. So our onboarding process, we try to make as simple as possible. I would say our average onboarding takes 3 to 4 days. But whether you need onboarding the next day or the next week, we try to make the onboarding process as seamless as possible. And Rent Manager's done a great job inside of their integrations dashboard of just making it easy to share those payment workflows so you can see how that syncs seamlessly between our system and Rent Manager's system. Perfect. Okay, so community rules. This is something that is really important to our team and to our customers as well. We work with a lot of different properties and a lot of different communities, and some of those across multiple states. And sometimes within each community or in each property, they may have different restrictions or different ways that that particular property is managed. And so whether you have the same rules across your portfolio or you have a particular property that may have different rules for whatever reason, for compliance purposes, or just because you've seen something works better inside of a particular property, we will work with you to set up those restrictions. So if there are some payment methods, for example, that you don't want to offer, we can set that up. If you want to make sure you have a free payment method to customers, we can set that up as well. So really it's structured around organizing it of what works best for you. We have some properties that offer partial payments through a certain time in the month. And then we have other properties that never want to accept a partial payment. And we have some that are even different across their portfolio, that some do accept partial payments and some do not. And so the bottom line is whatever your rules may be for the properties that you own, operate, or manage, we will make sure that our system is set such that those rules are reflected. And really, the most important thing to us is that anytime we're accepting a payment is that it's following the compliance of that particular state, that it's following the rules of that property manager, and that, like the question that we just had, and that it's being very transparent with the residents. The resident sees exactly what the fees are and gives them all of the payment methods where they can select what's the most convenient for them. One of our newest features at Occupi that has been really exciting and really been very helpful for the residents across our platform is offering a text to pay option. And so, simply put, how this works is that anytime a resident has an active session with us, so anytime that they're logged in and have an active session with Occupy, they can give any of the commands that you see here: balance, status, auto pay, history, method, or help, to get either support from our team via text message or to make a payment, to see their status, to see their balance. And this information is pulled directly from your rent manager account. So once they have a secure session with Occupy, if they're checking their balance, that's going to be the total balance that they have available at the time they check it inside of Rent Manager. Again, these can be restricted. We can just offer them the ability to pay. We can offer them the ability to check that just their status, or we can offer all of these things. But the feedback that we've gotten from residents is that it's made it very simple for them to sign up to use Occupy, just being able to check these via text messages, also able to post their payments. And since we've only had this live for one payment month so far, and we've also seen that the same residents are actually getting their payments in faster having these text message commands. So we're really excited about this feature and just making it easier for the residents to submit these payments. We also think this feature is making it easier for the property managers, because if they have a question, for example, if they're like, hey, I'm having an issue with my Occupy account, we'll take care of that. We'll take care of that issue with the resident. They can get our attention by text message. We'll get back to them quickly, and they're not having to contact their property manager with those questions. We do offer screening as well. We really offer screening because we have the verified payments that we've discussed, where we can verify that those deposit payments are available. As part of our screening offerings, we screen international residents as well. So if you have any properties that are close to a corporate a center where they have a lot of work visas, we can screen international residents using their ITIN numbers. We can create, this is something that I really appreciate. We can create a prospect file and share that information into Rent Manager. And so for screening, if you have any pre-application questions like, how long did you live at your previous residence, or any other basic questions that you may want to ask an applicant, you can capture their name and that pre-application data inside of Rent Manager. So if they apply with one of your other properties in the future, you have that history, and you can really create a file to support each of those residents. Depending on the state you're in and what you need, we can certainly customize these reports based on what's best for credit screening and background. And we also get certain screening information from our financial partners, just showing kind of cash flow reports from those prospects, or just other things that can make the screening process much easier. We do not charge a flat $4 fee for our screenings. We just charge the cost of that screening to the resident, unless you're in a state where the screenings have to be absorbed by the community. And so depending on which state you're in, we're just charging that directly to the resident, and then we're sending that data over and that prospect file over seamlessly to your Rent Manager account. And so this is all that kind of we have for you guys today. But like I mentioned, would love any questions that anyone has. And here's our contact information of how to get in touch with us. But really appreciate you guys spending time with us today and learning a little bit more about payments and screening, how our solution works, and how we share that information with Rent Manager. And would love to take any more questions if anyone has any questions for our team.
Taylor, that was awesome. Max, well done on the click through. Incredibly informative. Yeah, absolutely. We do have. So you did talk about the onboarding, but it looks like do you want to talk any more in depth about that? I know you said 3 or 4 days, which is incredible, but there's a question about the onboarding again, from like the sales to when they're ready to go cycle.
Yeah, so I mean, really, for our onboarding process, those four prompts that we put up on the previous slide, and Max, if you don't mind going back to that really quickly, that would be great. But this is everything that we need to have onboarding rolled out. And so in our agreement, as we mentioned, no onboarding fees, no usage fees, just that flat $4 fee that we're showing to all residents. Once you sign an agreement, you can go into your rent manager dashboard. You can request access to Occupy. After we have a signed agreement in place, we approve that and our team's able to see your workflow. We set up the onboarding call where we go through community rules. We get some KYB information from the bank to set up that bank account with you so you always have access to your payments from end to end. And then we send communications over. We have multiple times now set up rent manager customers through onboarding in 24 hours. So onboarding can be very quick. It really comes down to, for our customer, how quickly they want to pursue onboarding. Once we have the technical onboarding in place and payments are ready, we work really closely, and Max is particularly good at this. We work really closely with those properties to make sure that the communication to residents is easy. And so we have some properties that have email addresses and text messages for all of their residents, and that's fantastic. We also can help if your property has an initiative to get more updated phone numbers or email addresses. We can also send out either a physical newsletter or a digital newsletter to the email addresses you have, but we'll do everything that we can to help with resident communications because obviously that's mutually beneficial. We want your residents to know about Occupy and we want it to be as easy as possible for them to onboard with our system as well.
Very thorough. Thank you. Thank you. Looks like we have a two-parter here. So, what are some of the primary methods that you see used in the platform? And then you had mentioned verified payment methods. Why are those important?
Perfect. Thank you, Gabe. So the primary methods, I will say that this varies a little bit across communities, but in general, Cash App is a really important partner to us. For each of these cash wallets, the residents can pay through their actual wallet. So just verifying inside of their wallet that they want to make that rent payment, they can verify that through Occupy, and then we post it immediately into the resident's rent manager account. And so that's really effective. It works that way with Cash App, with Venmo, with SoFi, Chime, Green Dot, and Walmart Money Card. And then just having more options on both the card side. So on the credit card side, we see all kinds of, credit and debit card side, we see all types of cards processed. We see those gift cards. And then on the ACH side, being able to have more options around how we're verifying those payments. So verified Cash App and verified ACH payments right now, I would say are our two most important methods. And Gabe, I'm sorry, remind me, what was the second part of your question?
I think you might have nailed it already. What are some of the primary methods that you see? And then
Okay.
then you nailed why it's verified. It only makes sense that you would want verified payment methods. But I think what are some of the main primary methods that you see?
And perfect. And yeah, and so I would say the two most primary methods that we see are Cash App and ACH. And usually those verified payment methods are used very frequently. And then on our credit card and debit card side, we also see very different types of debit and credit cards, whether it be prepaid gift cards or what the industry calls companion cards. And so we can process any type of those payments, not just your more traditional credit and debit card side as well.
Perfect. Here's a technical one. How long does it take for payment to show up in a tenant's account after they pay with Occupy?
So we tell our customers to expect 3 business days. We obviously have a lot of different payment partners, so that can definitely vary, but approximately 3 business days, regardless of payment methods, is a good kind of metric to use for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Short and sweet. This is my favorite one. Um, what are some of the biggest challenges in payments that you've addressed? Anytime a partner goes out and can address some big challenges and get them out of your day is huge. So I love hearing these.
No, I love it. Very different challenges. I mean, I don't envy having the burden that a lot of properties and community does with state by state compliance. And it feels like state laws are changing very frequently that can affect payments and screening and many other aspects of the business. And so, at least from the payments perspective, we really leverage our platform to make sure that if a property is operating in a specific state, that we're following that state's compliance and staying up to date on the laws of that state, that can really kind of ease that compliance burden. We hear a lot of questions about NSFs and chargebacks. We've had some customers that with other providers were waiting 12 business days to get an NSF back. And so it really changed their month to month finances because they couldn't go through their typical process and didn't even know that they were missing a payment until those 12 business days elapsed and they had that NSF payment back. So being able to give them tools to make sure that that's not happening moving forward, I think is a great benefit. And then the onboarding process, we've been able to onboard several customers who were waiting 3 months or 6 months to onboard, and to get them onboarded in a day or a couple of days is really rewarding.
And Taylor, going back to Gabe's previous question about when it's reflected, there's a difference between when it's reflected when they make a payment with Occupy, it'll be there automatically on their rent manager account. I believe you were answering Taylor about when it would show up in the landlord's bank account, the payments.
Great point, Max. Yeah, as soon as the resident makes a payment, regardless of the payment type they're making it with, it will show up in their rent manager account immediately. And so that payment will be there inside of rent manager's account, and will show you that the resident has made that pending payment as soon as the payment is submitted by the resident. And then once the payment has, and then as far as clearing or coming into their bank account, it usually takes approximately 3 business days.
Gabe, you got any more questions for us from the chat?
So I might, you know what? I may have been on mute there. I apologize. Yeah. So no, there's no more questions. I'm not going to reiterate what I said because I don't remember and it probably wasn't pertinent, but you guys did a fantastic job. This is not the only way that you can get in touch. With Taylor and Max, the team, we're going to push you through the marketplace. You all know how to get through there. But again, fantastic, great demonstration today. And I'm going to go ahead and steal the screen back from you if you don't mind.